Tell us why.
People know I don't go everywhere. I'm not interested in talking to people unless it's like a Larry King or somebody of an amazing ilk that I would actually want to go talk to in real life.
Okay.
I don't do it so I can sell product, and I got things to sell, so let me come talk. You have a great product here, and as a fan base, we love the attention that you spend on the guest. We love how much work you've done, how well you know them, how prepared you are. The same things that we liked about you in football. You brought that on over to here, and that's why it resonates. And the reason I had to come is because you made a safe place for the truth to be told. You know what I mean? And I have watched all of these lowbrow comedians come here and disrespect you in your face and tell you straight up lies. I'm talking about things.
You woke? Time to get up. Good morning, welcome to Thought You Woke, No Speed Limit Podcast. I'm your host, Alvin. I just wanted to take a short time to talk about what happened with the Cat Williams situation. Cat Williams' situation is pretty much a funny thing because he went on Club Shay Shay and he kind of spilled the tea on some of his fellow comedians. You know, we don't know about the beef that goes on in the background, comedian lifestyles and all those things, but apparently there's a lot of beef out there in that industry. You know, he went off basically on people like Steve Harvey. He went off on Cedric the Entertainer. He went off on Ricky Smiley. He brought up Steve Martin. He brought up Tiffany Haddish. He didn't stop. He went after Kevin Hart too. He said, all these guys, they're not doing what I'm doing, you know. For one thing, he had a problem because he felt like, you know, it took you this long to get me on the couch and you don't talk to all these other dudes and they've talked a lot of trash about me. So now here's my opportunity to get back at them. Cat feels like Steve Harvey has had it in for him since what happened in 2009. Cat also felt like Cedric the Entertainer, he's kind of destroying Kings of Comedy, even though he didn't say anything about Bernie Mac. He said Bernie Mac was the man at Kings of Comedy. Everybody else sucked. Pretty much like they weren't as good as he was. I like Cedric the Entertainer. I think he's a decent comedian. I've seen Steve Harvey stand up. Sometimes his is cleaner than other people. It's not always clean. But I've loved to watch all of them as comedians. But of course, Cat Williams said they've all stole his jokes or they couldn't outperform him. And I can't lie, Cat Williams is one amazing person on stage. You know, people, Christian guys listen to Cat Williams. Well, he's a comedian, okay? That's comedy. It ain't got nothing to do with anything else. But the one thing I see about Cat Williams is no matter what you think about his Pimp Daddy style and him smoking weed, he does say he smokes weed. He is a person of integrity that sticks to what he believes. Like, he helps other comedians. Like, he see them backstage, he know they struggling, they ain't gonna make no money off the show, or the amount they're gonna make ain't gonna help them out. Steve don't mind sending them $1. That's the kind of person he was. Steve talked about when he started how he was homeless at 13 years old on the streets of Florida, and he was trying to figure out how he was gonna make it. It's like you see some tragedy in a person's life. You know, he's struggled in his life and he had some issues in his life with his home and his parents. And you see that he found a way out of the situation he was in. He talked about he didn't always do the right thing. He talked about he was stealing radios and possibly selling drugs. He didn't go into great details about that, but he said, hey, that was my life. I got out of that life. I became a comedian. He said I had to make it. He said I couldn't use drugs and be on the street with drugs and all that stuff. He said, man, so I had to find another way when I had my first baby. So he was working for a while, and then he said, then I became a comedian. He worked hard from the get-go in the industry to become better and better at what he did in his craft. Hey, I can appreciate that. But his issue comes up when it comes to people like Steve Harvey. Now, they're all out there saying this. You know, if you watch the internet, people say, oh, there's receipts. Yes, videos can be a receipt about actions that a person says. So we know that there's a video out there of Steve Harvey where Cat Williams is roasting Steve Harvey at some event in Detroit. We know it really exists. We know that exists. Now, the Ricky Smiley story has been confirmed or has been sort of changed a little bit by what Ice Cube said. Basically, Ice Cube said that, yeah, it's true that both Ricky Smiley and Cat Williams interviewed for the part, but that Cat Williams ended up fitting the part more so than Ricky Smiley. Ricky Smiley may have walked out of the door thinking he had the part, and then he said he came back, like Ricky Smiley also said, I came back the next day, hey, they had me playing a small role. He said one as funny as Cat Williams' role, but it was still a pretty funny role, and it was a cool role. And I'll say this, watching the movie, I hadn't watched it in a while, in I guess about 10 years. That was the funniest role in that. Those two were some of the funniest roles in that movie. You know, I didn't think Friday After the Next was as funny as the first Friday, but it was still funnier than the second Friday. If you get what I'm saying. Like, I liked the second Friday. I liked the first one. The third one was cool, but I think the first and the third were the funniest. And Money Mike was one of the main reasons that movie was so funny. I mean, the role that Cat Williams played, he embellished on it. He made it better and better as he went on. So, you know, that story about Ricky Smiley, like he said, it's sort of true, but sort of, you know, some embellishment. Like I said, Cat embellished a lot of the little stories. He said some other stuff in those stories. Like he talked about the fact that, you know, Ricky Smiley plays a character, you know, Miss Jenkins, which is based on people when he went to Kingston Baptist Church in Kingston, which is in Birmingham, Alabama, inside the projects, by the way. When he went to that church, it's based on some of the ladies he used to remember from that church. So that's what he based that character on. You know, he's a Gen X guy like me. So all of us Gen X guys, you know, we have those church experiences. Either way, you know, Cat Williams said that I'm a man of integrity. I wouldn't put on a dress because he talked about him. He talked about Martin because, you know, he said, man, I was going to work with Martin Lawrence on his next movie. And then he told me about putting on a dress. He said, I wasn't finna do it. He said, I ain't doing it. That's my thing. I don't wear dresses. I don't play gay roles because I ain't neither one of those. So that's something I don't do. You know, he says, and I get it. I'm a man of integrity too. If I've done a commercial, I will not do anything like wear a dress. I will not do anything where they want to play a gay role because those are not my lifestyle. I know nothing about them. You know, in acting, you have to change your personality. It's easier for me to change than something that's less familiar than some things I feel uncomfortable with portraying because I don't want to, the women's community and the gay community are particularly sensitive to certain things and certain portrayals. And if you do those the wrong way, it could blackball you too. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do that. I do not believe in wearing a dress because I'm a man, first of all, who does not want to wear a dress. And secondly, I'm a man who will not roll with the gay role because, like I said, that's a sensitive community and they should have the right people who want to do that role, who they feel like they can do that role right, take on that role. Excuse me. So, moving on with that. Cat Williams pretty much went off on everybody. He mentioned some things that are very important to talk about. He talked about Oprah. He talked about Tyler Perry. He says, you know, Tyler Perry and Oprah always talk about helping people and doing things like that. He says, so why is Taraji P. Henson struggling? Why are there a lot of actors that are struggling? The industry as a whole has not been good to black people. It'd be one thing if everybody decided to do Tyler Perry movies and Oprah Winfrey movies and they make millions of dollars a piece, you know. Also, part of it is education. You know, one of the things you got to learn is you got to get the dividends from the movie itself, right? Say, I want a piece of that. And then that way you'll always, the residuals from the movie, you want a piece of the residuals. You know, they're offering you $1 million up front so they don't have to pay you again. But what you say is, okay, well, in order for me to really do this film, I'll take $500,000, but I want part of the residual. I want 2 or 3% of those residuals to come my way. You know, so that's a lesson that needs to be learned. That always watch your money, read the contracts and all these things. Because Taraji was talking about how she had to fire all these people around because they weren't helping her. yada, yada, yada. But sometimes you need to know the business all around the business. I don't know what Taraji knows about the business, but they need to know about the business, right? And I'm not saying I'm an expert in the business because I'm sitting here doing a podcast. They're in Hollywood. They've been doing that. They got that experience for years. I've only done one commercial in my life, right? So anyway, but you always ask for the residuals on any project that you do. That's what you do. So Cat Williams talked about several things. Like I said, he went after P. Diddy. He talked about P. Diddy having these $50 million parties. You know, P. Diddy's been going around the YouTubes for a while. You know, people been talking about P. Diddy and his lifestyle and that he, you know, sometimes messes with boys. That's been an industry thing because it's an Illuminati thing. Talking about the Illuminati, it's a thing about breaking you in the Illuminati. You know, you have to do some stuff. You know, I've heard stories about you have to kill somebody you love, or let somebody you love die. I've heard that the thing about, you know, you gotta you have to have sex with somebody of the same sex. You have to be embarrassed, have public embarrassment. It's a public embarrassment ritual. All these things are things I've heard. Illuminati to me is no different than QAnon. It's a bunch of, you know, if it exists, it exists. So what? So Cat Williams and Dave Chappelle have both talked about this whole thing on the inside. The issue here is about money and power and how dangerous money and power can be because, hey, it affects the church. I can tell you about some people I love right now that are in the church, but, you know, money doesn't, Church Inc. is what I call it. But we'll get to that at some other point. What I really want to say is this, that Cat Williams is a man of integrity, and, you know, a lot of people talk about all the good things that Cat Williams has done. Cat sticks to his guns. It may not have helped him in the industry. Same with Dave Chappelle said, I'll never put on a dress. I'll never play a gay role because I'm not either one of those things. Those are not me, so I don't do them. And it may have hurt somebody's feelings in the industry, and it felt like, well, he's homophobic, all those things, so we can't have him on there. But then when you air it out in public, they definitely gonna try to come after you, and that's what's happened to Cat Williams and Chet. So when Dave Chappelle was, you know, had turned down the $50 million plus, he said, according to Cat Williams, was way more money than that. When he turned that down to put on the dress or whatever else they were trying to get him to do, Cat was like, "Yo, that really happened." Dave Chappelle was like, you know, and everybody said they made him sound like he was crazy, like he was insane. He wasn't. They said I was on drugs because I wouldn't do certain things. He said none of those things are true, but they have to destroy you because you won't do what they want them to do. And everybody's like looking at him like Dave Chappelle. He's an up and coming comedian. He's a great comedian. Dave Chappelle, Cat Williams, all of them are Hall of Famers by far. You know, if we think back to Ricky, you know, you don't heard stories about Richard Pryor and guys like that, and Red Fox. You know, you heard how they were greats in the industry. You know, you don't heard a story about Richard Pryor. You know, some gay rumors that I don't really like to repeat because I don't know if they're true or not. But there are a lot of those talks about that in the industry in order for him to do the movies that he did and become popular the way he became. So, you know, we talk about that the same size with these guys now, that those things still go on in Hollywood. You know, he even brought up the Weinstein thing. He brought up the casting couch, you know, and then I've heard some other comedians after this Cat Williams thing come out talking about there's been some weird things that go on in the background that people don't understand. And now it's kind of like Cat hits the bag. Comedians steal jokes. It happens all the time, and you see it all the time. But yeah, comedians steal jokes from other comedians. You know, it's like it's easy. Hey, I ain't got to go home and write this joke. There it is, right there. You know, this guy is working at a comedy club in Bruton, Alabama, and Comic A is the guy you'll see on Comic View or Def Comedy Jam or Comedy Central on a special. He's like, yeah, I could take that joke because this dude down here, nobody else has seen it. Who cares? There ain't nobody gonna say anything, right? No big deal. Well, it turns out to be a big deal if you're Cat Williams, you know, because he came out to Cedric the Entertainer for taking this joke, and he let him have it, basically, about that one joke. So, see, the industry is funny. You learn that there's beef in the background, and all I can say about this Cat Williams story is it's one of those stories that will continue to have legs And people going to keep on talking about it. They're just going to keep on talking about what happened here with Cat Williams. So, you know what? I'm going to end my conversation here. I don't get into all the messy stuff with that. But, hey, if you would like to talk about this, just leave a comment below. Make sure that you like and share this with others. And don't forget to subscribe. And y'all have a peaceful day. You have been listening to Thought You Were Woke No Speed Limit Podcast.